before we start, I want to thank Shamkun Prabhu for giving me this opportunity. And I am no way qualified to sit in front of you. I'm a little nervous to see all the advanced devotees and so very elevated souls. And Krishna should give me the power to speak. So today's topic is secret to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Before we go into the topic, so let's sing the Jaya Radha Mada. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Gaura Nittai, Jaya Gaura Nittai, Jaya Gaura Nittai, Jaya Gaura Nittai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Sri Sri Gaunitai ki jai, Sri Sri Sitaram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman ki jai, Sri Sri Srinath ji ki jai. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktichari Swami Iti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyabadi Paskatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadra Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you, Hare Krishna. So, as I mentioned, the topic is to please, what is the secret to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna? Now, we may ask, right, if we take a step back, why do we need to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why do we need to please Krishna? Right? If you see, there are various scriptures where Krishna's position is established, and one of that is Brahma Samhita. Lord Brahma is glorifying Krishna. He's saying that Krishna is Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. He's saying Ishvara Parama Krishna. So Ishvara means controller, Parama means supreme controller. Krishna is the supreme controller. He is Sachidananda Vigraha and he is Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. He is the cause of all causes. So that is the position of our Lord Krishna. Okay. Now, Bhagavatam says there are so many verses. It is the duty of humanity, or it's the dharma of human being to please the Supreme Personality of God. Now, when we please the Supreme Lord, if you see, we are all suffering in this material worlds, right? Taking birth, old age, disease, and death, right? It's all suffering, right? Now, when we able to please the Lord, and if the Lord is pleased, we can break the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. In today's world, we please so many people, right? I try to please my wife, I try to please my boss, I try to please the children, we try to please our parents, we try to please our neighbors, we try to please everyone. But unfortunately, we are not successful in pleasing most of them, right? I'm honestly, I'm very bad in that, right? I can't even please my wife sometimes, right? So if you see, that is the situation. And then Bhagavatam is saying that if Krishna is pleased, everyone else is pleased, right? So Prabhupada gives a beautiful analogy for that, right? He's telling that, right, if you want to nurture a plant, you need to water the root. We can't water each leaf, each branch, and each tree. When you water the root, all the nutrients needs to go to the leaf will also be satisfied, right? The same principle. So we need to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we understand that we need to please Him, and it's our duty to please Him. How do we please Him, right? So that's the topic. How do we please Him? So for that, now Prahlad Maharaj is telling that there is a beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will see that verse. He's saying, right, if this is in Canto 7, chapter 9, verse 9. Dhrandraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So I'll just chant that verse and you can repeat after me. Manye Dhanabhijanarupa Tapashrutojas Teja Prabhava Bhala Purusha Buddhi Yogaha Naradhanaya hi bhavanti parasya pumso Bhaktya tutosa bhagavan gajayutapaya. So let's read the translation of this verse. So Prahlad Maharaj continued, one may possess wealth, an aristocratic family, beauty, austerity, education, sensory expertise, luster, influence, physical strength, diligence, intelligence, and mystic yogic power. But I think that even by all these qualifications, one cannot satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one can satisfy the Lord simply by devotional service. Gajendra did this, and thus the Lord was satisfied with him. So let's read the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. No kind of material qualification is the means for satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, only by devotional service can the Lord be known. Bhaktya mam abhijananti. Unless the Lord is pleased by the service of a devotee, the Lord does not reveal himself. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samamvritaha. This is the verdict of all the Shastras. Neither by speculation nor by material qualifications can one understand or approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a beautiful verse, and it's also an important verse, right? So it's the duty of all of us to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we need to understand how to please. And Prahlad Maharaj is a great devotee, and he is teaching us how to please the Supreme Lord. Now, if you see, he is giving these 12 different material qualifications. He's mentioning about wealth, beauty, intelligence, knowledge, etc., right? The 12 material qualifications. And then he's saying these material qualifications will not satisfy the Supreme Lord. Now, if you see today's world, right, we are all, most of us, other than the pure devotees, we are all running behind these material qualifications to get somehow or other, right? Especially the wealth. Everyone is getting crazy about that, right? Whoever has, whoever doesn't have, etc. Now, Prahlad Maharaj says it's not going to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, these material qualifications, we consider them as an indication of success, right? If you see someone who is very wealthy, we say that, okay, he's very successful, right? If we take Elon Musk, he's the number one billionaire or something, we feel he's a very successful person. But Prahlad Maharaj says no, right? And then we also judge others based on these material qualifications. If he is wealthy, we try to give more respect. If he is intelligent, we try to give treat differently, right? We try to judge them based on these qualifications. And we are also hankering to get these material qualifications if we don't have it, right? But then we need to understand these are all temporary in nature, right? If you take, for example, the wealth, right? There is like today, so this was the recent news. Most of you are aware of it, probably, right? So the founder of FTX, he was a multi-billionaire few months back, and then what happened after a few weeks back? He went bankrupt, right? He lost everything. So in reality, if you see, at some point of time, he was so rich that we couldn't even approach him. Within few weeks, he has nothing, and we are all richer than him, right? So that is the nature of these material qualifications. They are very temporary. And then these material qualifications are based on past karma, right? So if we have done a good karma, we have been placed in a good situation. If not, we don't have it, right? So at the same time, we don't have a lot of time to run behind these, right? We can face death at any point of time. So like, for example, right, Parikshit Maharaj, he got 7 days notice. He's going to die. But we are not going to get those type of notice. Any moment we may leave the body, right? And King Katvanga got a moment notice, and he perfected himself within that moment, and he pleased the Supreme Lord. But we will not get that moment notice, right? So these qualifications are not satisfying the Lord and are also not going to satisfy us how much we get that one. So what does Prahlad Maharaj say? So these doesn't satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then what else satisfies him? Right? We saw that in the last sentence of that, where Prahlad Maharaj says it's only devotional service. So the secret to please the Supreme Lord is devotional service. Now, what is devotional service? Right? So devotional service means activities performed for the pleasure of Lord Krishna with devotion. So we all know there are 9 types of devotional service, right? Starting with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedana. So there are these 9 types of devotional service can be performed. You can perform any one of those or in combination of those, and by doing executing those devotional service, the Lord is fully pleased. Now, one may ask, what is the proof, right? Where is the evidence, right? If we perform this devotional service, the Lord is fully pleased with them. If you take Srimad Bhagavatam, there are hundreds and hundreds of examples, right? So now, wanted to talk about few examples. Now, instead of me coming out randomly with few examples from Bhagavatam, Rupa Goswami has compiled a beautiful prayer, a verse, and then he quotes 7 different personalities who have all pleased the Supreme Personality of God. Does anyone knows what is that verse and where is it? I was also not knowing. I just picked this up from Devakinandan Prabhu's class. So this is in Padyavali. Now Padyavali is a scripture. It's a compilation of all the devotional poetry. Okay, and Rupa Goswami is saying has gives that 7 personalities what I mentioned in this one particular verse. So let us discuss that verse and understand that who is this personalities and what have they done in order for which the Supreme Lord was pleased. Okay. Now, Rupa Goswami is exactly making the same point like Prahlad Maharaj was saying, right? What was Prahlad Maharaj was saying? The material qualification is not the one which pleases the Supreme Lord, whereas the devotional service is the one which pleases the Supreme Lord. Rupa Goswami is also telling the same exact point. And then the uniqueness in his verse is he's giving 7 personalities as an example. And then he's also asking a question in a nice form and then giving us that essence of it. So I'm going to go one after the 7 personalities and understand, right? So these 7 personalities don't have those material qualifications, but they were all very, very, very through their devotional service please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this is the verse, but I'm in the interest of time, I'm skipping the verse. We'll go to the content directly. So, the first question Rupa Goswami is asking is, where was Hunter Dharma's piety? Okay. So, in order to understand this question, we need to understand the story of Hunter Dharma in Mahabharata. How many of you know that story? So, only Prameya Prabhu knows that one. So, I'll quickly brief that story. So, once upon a time, there was a Brahmana called Kaushika. He had all the quality, he wanted to get all the yogic powers. So, he went to a forest and started meditating. And in that meanwhile, what he did is, he totally ignored his parents. He had aged parents and he ignored him and went to the forest and fully meditated. And in that process, he had a huge yogic power. Now, one day he was meditating under the tree in the forest, right? His full focus was on that meditation. And meanwhile, there was a bird going again on top of his head, and then it dropped its thing. Okay. So this Brahmana was very much agitated. He got so angry, he glanced the bird, and the bird died on the spot. Now then he realizes, oh my goodness, why did I get so angry? And the bird is died. So he said, I need to do some prayachit for this. So in order to do that prayachit, he said, okay, I'm going to go and do madhukari. I'm going to go and beg alms from the householders. So he is going to a householder door and he knocks the door. And there is a Mataji who comes out and sees the Brahmana and he says, okay, please wait, I will give you the food. Now, meanwhile, the Mataji's husband is entering the home. Now the Mataji is telling to the Brahmana, so please wait. See, my husband has come and it's my duty to serve him first. So you need to wait for a few minutes. Now the Brahmana gets so agitated. See, the whole idea was he did a mistake, so he's coming to do a prayachit. Again, he's getting so agitated. He's shouting at the Mataji. He said, how dare are you? I am a Brahmana. I know so many things, etc., etc. And then this Mataji was hearing that and she said, Brahmana, I asked you to wait. Do you think by glancing at me you can burn like what you did for the bird? So this Brahmana was shocked. How do you know that I glanced the bird and the bird died? And then this Mataji is telling, see, I am performing my duty, I am performing my dharma, I am serving my husband so sincerely, and because of the dharma, I can read the minds of the people. And then she's saying, I would say, my dear Brahmana, you please go and take the advice of hunter dharma. So now this Brahmana is going to finding the hunter Dharma in Mithila. And then he's going to meet that hunter. And then he was wondering in his mind, what is this? I have to go and learn from the hunter? Doesn't make any sense, but this Mataji is telling, so I have to go. So he's going and meeting the hunter Dharma. And the hunter Dharma, his profession was to sell meat and then get the proceeds from that meat, and then he takes care of his parents and distribute it to the local poor needy person, right? So he meets the hunter Dharma and he's saying, you are a hunter, you are killing animals and selling meat. What is that you are going to teach me? The hunter Dharma responds back to that Brahmana. He's saying that, do you think you know much more than the lady you met? Think about it, right? Now the Brahmana is much more shocked. You see, my God, that lady knows that I killed the bird, and you know that I met the lady. How do you know that? And then the hunter Dharma is saying that, see, I do, apart from my duty, I take care of my parents. Whatever, even though I sell meat, whatever profits comes, I distribute to the needy persons. And apart from that, I do a paro dharma. What is that paro dharma that hunter Dharma is doing is, he says, I every day pray to the Lord, please, you have made me in this situation. I need to come out of this sinful activity. Please help me out. And every day, every moment, he thinks of the Lord and prays to the Lord. And then he pleased the Supreme Lord by his devotional service. What was the devotional service he did? He prayed and remembered the Supreme Lord. So now, and then he's telling that to the Brahmana Kaushik, and he's saying, you need to go back and you have to take care of your parents, and then all of your problems will get solved. So then the Brahmana Kaushika understands that, and he goes back and takes care of his parents, and all his egos comes down, and then he coming into the path of bhakti. So the whole point is, right, what Rupa Goswami is asking, where was Hunter Dharma's piety? What it means is, he was not pious. He did not had any material qualification. But however, through his devotional service, he was able to please the Supreme Personality of God. That's the point. So now the second example or the second personality Rupa Goswami says in Padyavali is, where was Dhruva's maturity? Right? If you know, we all know the story of Dhruva Maharaj, right? Dhruva Maharaj was 5 years old. His stepmother insulted him, and then he approaches his mother, and based on his mother's suggestion, he enters into the forest where he met Narad Muni. And Narad Muni is advising, okay. So, and then Dhruva Maharaj, only that the whole idea of Dhruva Maharaj was he wanted to get a kingdom bigger than his father and great grandfather, right? So he goes to the forest and meets Narad Muni, and then he starts meditating. And then Narad Muni is giving a mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and he's performing that. He's chanting that mantra, remembering and telling that mantra, and also remembering the Lord at the same time. And we all know the story. Within 6 months, he is able to meet the Lord face to face. Now, Rupa Goswami is asking, he's making the point, what was Dhruva's maturity, right? So, the maturity here, what he's referring to is from two aspects. If you see, Dhruva Maharaj was only 5 years old, right? He was not a matured adult, he was a child. That's one aspect. And the second aspect is, if you think about it, Dhruva Maharaj was not a matured devotee even, right? At that point of time, his thought was only to get a kingdom better than his father. It was only a material desire. So from that perspective, Dhruva Maharaj did not even had these two maturity, right? And then he did not had any of the material qualifications, what Prahlad Maharaj was mentioning, those 12 qualifications. Even though he came from an aristocratic family, but at that point of time, he came out of the family and he's in a forest with coping, right? He didn't do his education, he didn't have wealth, and he didn't have any of those material qualifications. But then, by the power of the devotional service, right? What is the devotional service he did? He did three devotional services, right? He the top three of those 9 devotional services. He remembered, he chanted the glories of the Lord, and then he um, uh, meditated on that. And just by doing those three devotional service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was so pleased, right? If you see in the picture, right, he came and then he was very convinced with Dhruva Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj also realized that he was not matured. And then in the end, he is saying, right, what is he saying? He says, I have been asking for the broken pieces of the glass, whereas I saw the real diamond, right? So he realizes that he was not mature. So the point Rupa Goswami is making in Padyavali is Dhruva Maharaj did not had any of the material qualifications, whereas he was able to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Lord was pleased. So before I go to the next example, the third example, so what were the two questions we saw so far? Where was Hunter Dharma's piety? Where was Dhruva's maturity? And third example Rupa Goswami is making in Padyavali is a very nice question. He's saying, where was Gajendra's knowledge? Right? If you think about it, now Gajendra, we all know the pastime of Gajendra. Gajendra is an elephant, right? Now, Gajendra, in his past life, he was King Indradumna Maharaj and used to perform devotional service. And Bhagavatam says that every day he used to offer lotus flower to the Lord and performed. And one day he was cursed by the sage to become a dull elephant, and then he's taking birth as an elephant. Now, this elephant, absolutely, elephant cannot have any material qualifications, right? And the elephant is going one day to the lake along with his wife and the children. And then Bhagavatam is saying the elephant was intoxicated and he had no knowledge of what is he doing. And then what happened? He was caught by the crocodile. At that time, he couldn't come out of it, and then he was trying to take help from other elephants, and no one was able to help him. And then Bhagavatam is explaining, right? So he's saying because of the devotional service he's performed in his past life, Krishna gave him an intelligence, and then Gajendra, he fixed his mind in his heart through his intelligence. Bhagavatam is saying that, and that's a beautiful prayer of Gajendra glorifying the Lord. He remembers the mantra what he glorified during his previous birth. And then the Lord was pleased and immediately came back and saved him through his Sudarshan Chakra. Right? So the point here, right, Rupa Goswami is making is what qualifications or what knowledge Gajendra had? No knowledge. But still he was able to please the Supreme Lord through his devotional service. What was the devotional service Gajendra did? He prayed to the Lord and remembered the Lord. Gajendra and Krishna was pleased with him. So the point is, without any material qualifications, Gajendra was able to please the Supreme Personality of God. Okay. Now let's go to the next example Rupa Goswami is saying. So that this is also a very good question. He's saying, where was Kubja's beauty? Right? It's not amazing, right? If you all know the story of Kubja, Kubja was a hunchbacked lady who was not beautiful at all. She was giving sandalwood paste and all the beautiful perfumes to Kamsa. One day she was bringing those paste and those beautiful sandalwood perfumes, and Krishna and Balram is meeting Kubja, and the Krishna is asking her, "What do you have?" And Kubja is saying, "I have these perfumes. Will you share with us? Can you give it to me and Balram?" And Kubja, without hesitation, she gave all that to the Supreme Lord, to Krishna and Balram. Both of them were very pleased. And then Krishna was so happy. What he did, he touched Kubja, and then through his, if you see the picture, left hand side, right? He, through his hand, he's lifting her face, and the Kubja comes out of her hunchback. And then, because the Lord touched her, she became one of the beautiful lady, right? In fact, she was the Miss Mathura at that time, right? So, now we could see the beauty of that Kubja. Now, Krishna was not attracted to her beauty, right? What Krishna was attracted? Krishna was attracted to her beautiful devotional service, right? She wanted to share what she had, and Krishna was pleased. And then you can see the right hand picture, Kubja became very beautiful, right? So the point, and by the way, do we know like who was Kubja in her past life? Anyone? Surpanaga, yes, that's right. Surpanaga is coming as Kubja in her present life. And we all know the story of Surpanaga as well, right? So we'll not go into that. So the whole point is Kubja was not beautiful. She did not have any material qualification. She was not wealthy as well as she was not intelligent. She was just a servant to Kamsa. Whereas by her devotional service, she was able to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. So before going to the next example, let's quickly remember what were the three questions so far, four questions, right? What was the questions? Where was Hunter Dharma's piety? Where was Dhruva's maturity? Where was Kubja's beauty? Sorry, where was Gajendra's knowledge? Where was Kubja's beauty? So now Rupa Goswami is asking another interesting question. He's saying, where was Sudama's wealth? Right? Very, very nice point, right? We all know the story of Sudama. Sudama was a very poor Brahmana, right? Sudama was a friend of Krishna, and then both of them learned to the same teacher, Sandipani Muni. We know the story of Sudama, and one day they were in so much of poverty. Sudama's wife is saying that, "Oh, Krishna is your friend. Why don't you approach Krishna and get something for us? Because the whole family is being suffering from hunger." So Sudama is taking that puffed rice and going to Dwaraka to meet the king. Krishna was the king at the time in Dwaraka, and he's meeting the king, Krishna, and Krishna is getting the puffed rice, and he was pleased. He's welcoming Sudama, and then you've seen the picture, he's serving Sudama, right? So Krishna was pleased with his devotional service. So the point is, Sudama also pleased the Supreme Lord with his devotional service. But where was his wealth? There was no material qualifications. He was not wealthy. He did not have, of course, he had education, but not to that extent. And then he was not very intelligent or beautiful. So he didn't had any of those 12 qualifications, material qualifications, what Prahlad Maharaj was saying, right? But he was able to please the Supreme Lord. So before we go to the next one, so what are the questions we learned? Where was Hunter Dharma's piety? Where was Dhruva's maturity? Where was Gajendra's knowledge? Where was Kubja's beauty? Where was Sudama's wealth? So the next question is, this is a very interesting question Rupa Goswami is making. Saying, where was Vidura's noble birth? Right? Think about that. So Vidura was the son of a maid servant. Right? We all know the story in Mahabharata. And Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana used to chastise Vidura, saying that you are a son of a maid servant. But then Vidura was a pure devotee of the Lord. Vidura was none other than Yamaraj. Yes, he was one of the 12 Mahajans. And so he couldn't hear those harsh words, and he leaves to go to the pilgrimage. And then he goes to all the temples and pilgrimage. And then if you see, he comes back, and then he advises his brother Dhritarashtra to come out of that one, and he wanted to help Dhritarashtra. And then he advising him. Bhagavatam explains, right? He's trying to explain Dhritarashtra about the significance of time. He's saying the time is so inconceivable, time which overcomes everyone. You can't catch time, right? Time will not wait for anyone. So why don't you understand? And he convinced Dhritarashtra, right? Now, when we remember Vidura, we also try to remember Vidura's Mataji, right? We all know that story as well, right? When the Supreme Lord came to Vidura's house, Vidura's wife was so much in anxiety and wanted to please the Lord. So she was trying to offer banana, right? In the anxiety, what she did, she offered the banana leaf and throw the fruit, but the Lord was pleased, right? So that was not mentioned in Rupa Goswami's Padyavali, but when we talk about Vidura, we could remember Vidura's wife as well, right? So the point is, Vidura was also able to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, so before we go, so far we have seen 6 examples, right? Now, what were they? Where was Hunter Dharma's piety? Where was Dhruva's maturity? Where was Gajendra's knowledge? Where was Kubcha's beauty? Where was Sudama's wealth? Where was Vidura's noble birth? The last one, Rupa Goswami is asking, where was Ugrasena's strength? Now, if you know the story of who was Ugrasena, right? King Ugrasena was a very powerful king. Now, he was ruling the whole Vishnu dynasty, and Ugrasena was the father of Kamsa. Right? He was the father of Kamsa, and Kamsa imprisoned Ugrasena. He put him in the prison, and people used to actually say, condemn Ugrasena, saying that you are such a big strength, so strong king, and you are not able to overcome Kamsa, right? And then because of that, so people used to condemn him. And then if you see the whole story, Ugrasena was able to please Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you see, during the dynasty, right, during the Yadu dynasty, when it was about to be vanquished fully, Ugrasena was entrusted with that iron lump, if you remember, right? And then he is the one which came from the womb of Samba. And then he cut those iron lump into pieces and then mixed those things in the seawater. And then that's how the whole Yadu dynasty was as per the plan of the Supreme Lord. And he was able to please Krishna. So that is what Rupa Goswami is saying. Where was Ugrasena's strength? But he was able to please the Supreme Lord. So the whole point is, right, by now you would understand, right? Maybe one quick time, we'll try to quickly remember all those 7 questions. Where was Hunter Dharma's piety? Where was Dhruva's maturity? Where was Gajendra's knowledge? Where was Kupcha's beauty? Where was Sudama's wealth? Where was Vidura's noble birth? Where was Ugrasena's strength? What is the point, right? What is the key message here, right? The whole point is devotional service is the one which pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is, it doesn't matter whether we have the material qualifications or not. So we should not be spending all our energy, resources in acquiring those material qualifications. Instead, we should devote in performing, executing devotional service. Okay? So that's the message. And then if you see, today, right, in today's world, we like say in companies as well, they outsource activities, right? So my company has outsourced majority to Indian all the IT activities, right? Many companies do that one. The idea is to focus primarily all our resources, the employees focus, everything should be on the prioritized activities, on the strategies, etc. Right? Even on our household wise, right? We try to outsource, right? We outsource our lawn mowing, we outsource our snow cleaning, we outsource our the household cleaning, etc. Right? Many of us. The whole idea is we should use our time to perform the devotional service, and we cannot outsource the devotional service. Makes sense, right? What's the point, right? Right. So that's another message. And then Prahlad Maharaj and Rupa Goswami both are teaching us, right? So we all try to be workaholic, right? We want to spend whole day and night. But what are they teaching? They are teaching us don't be workaholic, become Krishnaholic, right? So that's the point. That's the message they are telling us, right? And then whatever based on our past karma, whatever resources we have, some are wealthy, some are intelligent, some are beautiful, some are knowledgeable. We should use all those service in Krishna's service, right? All those things to be used for Krishna's service, right? There is a nice analogy. All our activities are compared to zero, and then in order for that zero to have a value, it needs to be have with one, right? If you have four zeros is useless. When it is attached to that one, it is 10,000, right? Similarly, that one is the Supreme Lord, and all of the zeros are our activities. So when we use those activities to the Lord, then it becomes more valuable, and that becomes a devotional service. Now, we all also need to, right? We can do the devotional service in so many ways, and our temple is giving us so many opportunity, right? Now, we were telling Chamkund was Prabhu was telling about the new temple, and we did the prayers, right? So we can, if people are wealthy, and we can share some of the wealth too in order to build the new temple. That's a devotional service, right? If you see, even from Satya Yuga onwards, right? People used to donate in charity some portion of it. In Satya Yuga, there was a principle, right? They used to draw a line and throw the money. Whatever falls after a particular line, that goes to the Lord, and whatever falls on the other side of the line, they used to take it. Same way, then in Dwapar Yuga, draw a big circle and throw the money. Whatever came within the circle, it is Lord's, and whatever came out of the circle, it is ours. In Treta Yuga, right? uh, what happened? The circle became smaller circle, and whatever the amount came within that smaller circle, it went to the Lord, and came outside the circle, it was people's money. In Kali Yuga, the mentality is we will throw the money, whatever the Lord could catch, it is his, whatever falls down, it is ours. Right? That is the mentality, right? That is not part of the devotional service. We have to share what we have, right? Now, if we share what we earn in some portion of that, Krishna will be pleased. And then the advantage Rupa Goswami is saying in Nectar of Devotion is that you get two benefits. One is the whatever activity we did, and there is a karma associated to that activity. When we share some of that portion with the Lord, we are not entangled with that karma, and it also purifies us. So we need to share. I kindly request all of you to, that is also part of the devotional service. We are constructing the new temple. We can donate nicely. And and we are all we take New Year resolutions, right? We are in month of January as well, what we want to do in 2023. So then I was talking to my family. I said that whatever devotional service I did last year, I should try to do more this year. Same way, we all can do, right? Whatever we have donated last year, we'll try to donate more this year. Then it's a devotional service, right? So if you really see, Krishna is Bhava Grahi Janardana, right? Bhava Grahi Janardana. What does that mean is, he sees our heart, he sees our effort, he sees our devotion, what is our mood in performing the devotional service. That's all he sees. He doesn't care our material qualification. So we need to, being our duty to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we need to perform the devotional service. So bottom line, right? What is the bottom line? The whole purpose of the class. Lord Madhava is pleased only by devotional service, not by material qualifications. And we need to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So with that, I close the class, and thank you so much for listening. I don't know, Prabhu. People are they are excited to have honor prasad, so which is fine.
So let us thank His Grace Mohan Govind with a loud Haribol! Thank you, Mohan Govind. Very wonderful, entertaining. A lot of new stories we learned, and really connecting to the importance of pleasing Krishna. And maybe we can even please our wife sometime. Maybe. But thank you. And so please.